Hi, welcome to another edition of Entertainment Elite. Today's a little bit special. As usual, I'm Andrew and this is Todd. We're just going to do a video log, however you want to call it, a vlog, whatever. We haven't really done one before. We're going to start off today talking about the UFC welterweight title picture and what has happened as of recent events. As I'm sure you all are aware, GSP went down with an ACL injury. He's out for 10 months minimum, which that means we're looking at early October of 2012 before he can even compete again. And I just don't see the picture being the way that it should be right now. But
yeah, I don't think he's going to compete again until 2013. Personally, no. I think the whole 2012 year is going to be a wash for him. He's just going to start fresh in 2013, which is going to be a huge layoff for him. And there's going to be a very different division when he comes back. Obviously, this makes Condit Diaz the title fight now, an interim title fight at 143, Super Bowl weekend, which I'm excited for. Yeah. It's going to be a great fight, and I'm taking Carlos Condit right now, so we don't even have to worry about the prediction show on that one. I'm taking Carlos Condit to win that fight. He's won 12 of his last 13. He's faced tougher competition.
And before somebody on here comments...
And
yeah, before somebody on here,
Paul Daly.
That's it. Before somebody on here comments, Diaz won 11 straight, and for you pro Diaz people, whatever. That's all I got.
I'm not taking anything away from Diaz. He's a great fighter,
but he hasn't beat anybody of note.
And like I said,
Paul
it's
Daly.
going to be a great fight. But in his 11-fight win streak, his most notable win up until BJ was Paul Daly. That was the biggest name out of all 11 wins. How can you say that he's done better? I mean, Carlos Condit's faced Dong Hyun Kim and Rory McDonald and young up-and-coming fighters in the UFC. He hasn't fought Paul Daly. He's fought Dan Hardy. He's fought up-and-coming guys. Granted, Dan Hardy's on a bit of a slide recently, but
yeah,
that's because he keeps taking a lot of ridiculously tough fights.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as far as Nick Diaz and Carlos Condit. I'm not going to go on a limb right now and say my pick.
You know you're picking Carlos Condit.
I will probably pick Condit out of sheer...
He's going to pick it because he doesn't like the Diaz brothers. I'm picking it because I think Condit's the better fighter.
I don't like the Diaz brothers at all.
Granted, what he's hoping for, and I'm kind of hoping for it too now, is that hopefully Nick Diaz messes up again and messes up this fight somehow, and it ends up being Condit Koscheck, and hopefully Nick Diaz will just be done with the UFC then.
Everybody knows that if he screws up one more time with Dana White's going to be like, you're fired.
Pretty much.
And that's going to be the end of it. And that's really what we're hoping for. So I will never have to see Nick Diaz in the UFC ever again. And the only thing that would make me happier is if for whatever reason Dana would say, your brother's got to go with you. Your brother's fired too. I hate the Diaz brothers.
I don't think he'd fire Nate. Nate's actually done quite well.
But I hate the Diaz brothers with a passion.
Outside of losing his fight to Rory McDonald, which was a really good fight too. I mean, Nate's done very well. He just won at 136, wasn't it? Or was it 135? 135, I believe.
Yeah, either way, he just won. So moving on, what other topics were we going to talk about? We had them all broke down.
There were numerous ones. UFC on Fox 2.
Oh yes, we need to talk about the UFC on Fox card.
We're excited about it. Obviously, 3 big fights announced for that card, which is much better than the one big fight that was announced for the first card. They got 3 big fights on this one. You've got obviously Evans Davis, which is an absolute next guy. That guy, the winner gets the title shot.
Well, the both main events, the co-main event and the main event, are title shots.
Well, yeah, because Silva, or Son and Munoz.
Yeah,
the winner of that gets Silva as well. So 2 big fights to determine the next title shots in those respective divisions. And those are great fighters too on top of it.
And then they just added Bisping versus Damian Maia,
which will be a great fight, but really that's just to continue adding to Bisping's long streak of beating fighters who will never contend. I mean, I personally don't get it.
Yeah.
I know Damian Maia is a great fighter, but let's be honest, he's never going to get another title shot after the embarrassment.
Which is why they have went out and said that this is not a title contender fight, but it has title implications.
Because they keep saying, oh, Bisping beats this guy, he'll get a title shot. He beats this guy, he'll get a title shot.
But they don't want to make this a #1 contender spot in the odd shot that Damian Maia would win.
Because no one wants to see that fight ever again, ever.
We do. But we're weird. You know,
yeah.
I would want to see it again because I thought it was funny as hell the first time.
Yeah, Anderson hiding behind the ref. Hiding behind the ref. Hysterical. If you haven't seen it, he just hides behind the ref and plays around. It was a terrible fight overall, but Anderson's antics were quite funny. But yeah, I mean, it'll be a good fight. But
here's our problem with I'm gonna move on past Damian Maia because
I'm talking about Michael Bisping.
Yeah, I'm gonna move on past Michael Bisping too.
Why?
Because we need to talk Chael Sonnen and Mark Munoz as a #1 contender fight.
The worst decision the UFC has ever made.
Because here's the situation. Anderson Silva is going to headline the event in June at Sao Paulo. It's a 100,000 seat stadium.
Well, that's what they're saying. That's what they would want it to be.
That's what they're saying.
It's not confirmed yet.
But that's what they're shooting for right now. So let's say Munoz beats Sonnen.
They just killed that event.
Yeah, because Silva Sonnen 2 in Sao Paulo would be hysterical. It would be
historic, #1. It's really, Chael Sonnen is the only true rival that Anderson Silva's ever had. That's been Anderson Silva's biggest weakness. As great a fighter as he's ever had, he's never had a true nemesis. And this guy is that. He's the one guy who was 2 minutes away from beating him and got sloppy and still won't shut his mouth, and then comes back, dominates Brian Stan.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? It's the biggest fight you could possibly have for your company. Your best fighter against his one true nemesis, his one true foil.
At what will be your biggest event ever.
And you're like, no, we're going to put Mark Munoz in the spot. Because let's be honest, there's a very good chance Mark Munoz can win that fight. And
it's an outside chance, but it's still a chance. Because, like we were talking about, they're both good wrestlers. You're probably going to give the edge to Chael in wrestling, but they're still both good wrestlers. They both have lethal ground and pound.
But my big thing is you give the edge to the striking to Munoz.
Absolutely.
He just knocked out Chris Lieben.
I agree wholeheartedly. Munoz has the edge in striking.
So it's a really, really dangerous fight because...
And we've never really seen Chael's chin tested.
Not really, no.
I mean he took a couple shots from Anderson. He took a couple shots from Brian Stan, but we've never really seen him in a slugfest with anybody.
Granted, that's because he doesn't let that happen, because he just powers you down to the ground and starts doing his little...
Do you think he can overpower Mark Munoz?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's a dangerous fight for him, and, I mean, if he wins it, great, because clearly he's the #1 guy then. No one can even dispute it if he takes out Munoz, too, after taking out Stan. But why would you risk it if you're the UFC? The UFC is always about one thing, and that's the payday.
Absolutely.
And Silva Sonnen 2 is an automatic huge payday. It's like why they always put Brock Lesnar in the big fight, even though people don't think he deserves it. Lesnar sells tickets.
Yep, and that's what Dana White likes.
And yet he likes that so much, but he purposely damages the possibly damages the chance at the biggest fight ever.
Yes.
To have, because Silva Munoz could be a great fight too, but let's be honest, is that going to sell as many pay-per-views as Silva Sonnen? No. Why would you even do it? I don't get it. You had Davis and Evans on the card. That's already a big fight. You didn't need to add another one on top of it. As fans, obviously, we like it. But I'm thinking in terms of business for the UFC, it's not a good business move. No. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely not.
It's a great move for us, the fans, to see the fight, but for the UFC, not so much.
All right. Now, we're going to talk for a couple minutes on this. We got a comment a while back on a video about us being UFC biased.
We are a little.
We are a little.
Biased. There's no doubt about that.
But what we're going to do right now is we're going to give you our justification on why we are UFC biased.
Oh, it's real easy. Mirko Cro Cop, bust in the UFC. Jake Shields, bust in the UFC. Shogun, yes, he won the title ever so briefly, but he's what, 3-4 or 4-4?
4-4
in the UFC in his career. Bust in the UFC. I mean...
Yeah.
All these guys. they come in and they're the big hoopla and the big to-do and, oh my God, they're going to do so much. And then they really don't do much of anything, do they?
Jake Shields' big win in the UFC was a split decision over Martin Kampmann, and as he will probably say, I will not let it go.
He will not let it go.
I believe that Martin Kampmann won that fight.
Well, a lot of people actually do, and because they were talking about it when Martin Kampmann fought Rick Story recently at 139, Martin was very dead set on not letting it go to the judges' scorecards because he felt he won that fight against Shields but got cheated on the scorecards.
And
so a lot of people felt that way.
Shogun's another one.
And I love Shogun. I mean, his fight with Dan Henderson was a classic. Yeah. He puts on great fights.
Don't misunderstand what we're saying. We're not saying we don't like these fighters.
Yeah, we're not saying they're not great fighters.
We're saying what have they done in the UFC, and this is why we're UFC biased. This is why we say that the UFC has the top talent that people have so much trouble beating, because Shogun came in this big to-do from Pride.
He came in big to-do from Pride and gassed out in his first fight against Forrest Griffin.
And lost. And then his only wins leading up to his title fight
were against Chuck Liddell and Mark Coleman, guys way past their prime at that point when he fought them.
Absolutely.
And then he got a title shot, and he had a couple great fights with Machida, the one that went to decision that didn't go his way, and then he came out and just murdered Machida. And I'll give him credit for that all day long. But outside of that brief period there, the Machida fights, what's he really... And the Henderson fight that recently happened, what's he really done? He's been pretty disappointing. I mean, he beat Forrest Griffin in the rematch. Forrest, once again, not really in his prime anymore. His prime was 2008.
And then, as we mentioned, Mirko. And we love Mirko Cro Cop. He's very entertaining. But what's he done in the UFC? We got crap because we picked Roy Nelson over Mirko Cro Cop because Mirko looked ripped in the weigh-ins. It's a direct quote from whoever made the comment.
Yeah, the guy who made the comment said we only picked him because I only picked him because I'm fat.
It doesn't matter the fact that we watched Roy Nelson fight Junior Dos Santos
and take every strike that Junior could throw at him and not fall down.
Yeah, I mean he has.
He did fall down. I shouldn't take that, but didn't get stopped.
Yeah,
15 minutes getting pummeled by Junior Dos Santos, didn't get stopped. But the mysterious head kicks of Mirko Cro Cop are going to come out of nowhere and get him. Has Mirko even landed a head kick in the UFC?
I think he landed one, but I don't think it knocked anybody out.
Has any of these vaunted, dreaded, legendary head kicks ever landed in the UFC?
No.
The only head kick that landed for Mirko in the UFC was when Gabriel Gonzaga kicked his head off.
Yes.
He got his head kicked off by Gabriel Gonzaga.
We will, however, be breaking our UFC bias when UFC 141 shows up.
Because we will be picking Alistar over him.
Yes.
But that's mainly because we don't like Brock Lesnar, I'll be honest. I think Alistar is a physical beast, but so is Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, nobody's going to take that away from him.
And honestly, Lesnar can definitely, I believe, out-wrestle him.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Obviously, he's a collegiate champion.
Division I champion,
too. In the wrestling game, it's definitely Lesnar.
We just don't like Brock Lesnar.
We just don't like him. Honestly, I would probably, if I was without any bias, I would probably pick Lesnar to win the fight.
Probably.
But because I really, really, really don't like Brock Lesnar, I would pick Alistar.
Yeah, so, I mean, we may be UFC biased, but we at least have justification on it. And usually if you watch the videos that we make in depth, we break it down as to why we're picking somebody. Mm-hmm. And we usually have said it's because he hasn't beat anybody coming from any other promotion.
Yeah, no one's going to take away what they did in the other promotions. It's simply we don't feel that they've done anything in the UFC.
Yeah.
Not that they haven't done anything in their career or been great. They just haven't done it where it counts. Let's be honest, that's what the UFC's done well. If it doesn't happen in the UFC, doesn't happen. That's how they've kind of built it. Obviously, that's not true, but that's how they built it.
And the last quick thing about that, and a prime example, is going to be Fedor. It's going to be Fedor.
Yeah, he never did anything in the UFC, so as great as his career has been,
it's going to go down as like second best behind the best that was the UFC.
Exactly.
So, well, that's what we got. Our little breakdown, our rant, whatever you want to call it.
I'd say it was pretty much a rant.
Yeah, and we love to talk, so if you guys want to leave a comment, give us a topic to talk about. We'll be more than happy to break it down for you. As always, make sure you subscribe, leave us comments. We greatly appreciate it. See you guys next time.
Later.